1 p.m., the earliest time this hearing could start. My name is Craig Coutts. I am acting as the Adams County Clerk's facilitator for this hearing. Again, unlike that was published in the pink postcard, this hearing only involves the Hastings Public Schools District number 18. First off, thank you for taking your time to attend. This hearing shall be conducted pursuant to the requirements established by the unicameral in the Property Tax Request Act. Given those requirements, I must provide a fairly lengthy introduction. Let me apologize in advance for the length of that introduction. First, thank you in advance for participating with civility and respect for everyone attending this hearing. All of us will likely see each other and/or may even work with each other again in this community. With that fact of small town living in mind, we must remain cordial here so that our community continues to be a great place to live for everyone. The representative of the political subdivision presenting information required by the Property Tax Request Act will be introduced right before his presentation. Before asking him to make his presentation, I want to outline the statutory requirements and expectations of this hearing. Everyone speaking at this hearing must sign the sheet located down front. The county clerk is required by statute to prepare a report that includes the number of individuals who signed in to attend the public hearing. On the sign-in sheet, we ask that you print and fill in all columns. It looks like everyone did that. New to the law this year is a requirement that at least one elected official from each participating political subdivision shall attend the public hearing. The elected official needs to be present in the room, but may not be the designated representative making the presentation on behalf of the political subdivision. In this case, the president of the Hastings Public Schools Board of Education, Becky Sullivan, who is sitting on the stage, represents the required elected official. However, Jody, if you'll wave your hand, Jody Gray is also a Hastings Public Schools Board member, is in attendance. I don't see anyone else, but if I miss somebody, yell out here quick. Okay. Although a quorum of a governing body may be present at this hearing, this will not constitute a meeting subject to the provision of the Open Meetings Act. If there is a quorum of the governing body present, no business may be conducted. As required by Section 77-1633, there shall be no items on the agenda at this public hearing other than the discussion on each political subdivision's intent to increase its property tax request by more than the allowable growth percentage, an arbitrary number established by the unicameral. For those interested in more details about any political subdivision's budget, it is important to attend the budget hearing of the political subdivision. Budget hearings by political subdivisions provide significant transparency and important information as required by the Nebraska Budget Act. Following the presentation by the representative of the Hastings Public Schools, any member of the public signed in at the podium will be allowed to speak for the designated period of time. As provided by Section 77-1633, I now ask the designated representative of the political subdivision, in this case the Hastings Public Schools, to introduce themselves and to give a brief presentation on the political subdivision's intent to increase its property tax request by more than the allowable growth percentage as arbitrarily established by the unicameral, and the effect of such request on the political subdivision's budget. After this presentation, there will be a time when speakers will be called forward. So at this time, I would ask that Dr. Krasowski please take over.
Thank you, Craig. Appreciate it. I appreciate everyone coming out. Just a reminder, so on your pink postcard, the city's no longer there. So you see a line there that says Hastings. They, like I said, they changed their budget. They're not in attendance. The line you see in your postcard is Hastings 18. So that would be the school district that we're talking about tonight. So based upon the state statute, one item I have to do is do the slide. So it's a canned slide. Any pink postcard we need to go to, this is going to be included. So I'm just going to go over what's on here first. I'll hit on a couple different items, and I'll hand it back to Craig and let you guys definitely have some dialogue and ask your questions. So first off, the name of the district is Hastings Public Schools. Our dollar amount of proposed tax request is $21,601,867. So the following statement is the total assessed value of property differs from last year's total assessed value by 6%. That's how much our valuation actually went up. The tax rate, which would levy the same amount of property taxes as last year when multiplied by the new total assessed value of property, would be 1.090276 per 100 of assessed value. The district proposed adopted property tax request that would cause the tax rate to be $1.16 per $100 of assessed value. So based on the proposed property tax request and change in other revenues, the total operating budget for Hastings is actually going to decrease by 8%. To obtain more information regarding this increase in the property tax request, citizens may contact Hastings Public Schools, and my number is there, 402-461-750. My email is also listed there as well. In addition, if you have more questions, want to dive deeper into the budget, please contact me. I can meet with you tomorrow or also Friday as well and kind of explain it in more detail. The board plans to officially adopt the budget and the property tax request on the following Monday or Monday, September 22nd. So a couple things beforehand. The big chunk of this tax increase is related to our HVAC. So we do have older systems at Alcott. Unfortunately, we're looking at $500,000 to $1 million. You go to any bank, any store in town, you're going to see AC and heat. Like I said, that's going to be why this big increase is going up. Like I said, that's one of the things we need to look at. When they did the bond on these buildings, my assumption is they tried to address as much as they could. The HVACs at the time were working good. Typically these HVACs are different and rough. Typically have a 20-year lifespan, so we just know them. And secondly, I think you'll look at the other side of the coin. Yes, it's going to be an increase. You definitely probably AC and heat for our little ones, but they're also going to be a lot more energy efficient. We're going to save money in the long run along those lines. The board did approve the architect at our last board meeting, and the goal is to hopefully put it out to bid. As per state statute, it's over $144,000. You have to have an architect or engineer, so we'll be utilizing both of them to try and get this project out to bid. There is some Freon changes based on the EPA requirements. Now it's the federal level. We don't control the Trump administration and their EPA requirements. That has to be approved before January 1. The big push for the board is it's going to save us a lot of money not having to go from the local Freon to a more propane-based Freon, then we have to redo our whole system. Like I said, I don't control the Trump administration or the EPA, but that's kind of our big push to try and get this done before costs possibly increase 20 to 40%. I'm not an expert when it comes to HVAC, but our head of maintenance will be sure to answer questions later on this week if that helps. So in addition to, obviously we talked about our facility needs that have a big impact. The next issue we face here is really state funding uncertainties. And this is a little bit different in our district. So our district is one of the only equalized districts in the area. The other ones would be Kearney and Grand Island. So what does that mean? We're at the mercy of state aid. So that's kind of controls our budget. Overall budget's only about 35 to 36%. Our budget's actually based upon our property tax request. Majority of our funds come from the state and federal level. Like I said, we are very land poor, so based on the needs or the TIOSA formula or state formula, it's needs minus resources. We just do not have enough resources. That's why we get state aid. Unfortunately, our state aid's been flat. The past 5 years, it went up about $170,000. So I said minimal increases. As we all know, 5 years ago, things have all gone up. What are really the root cause of this? You can look at two sides of the coin. First off is the corporate and income tax cuts. And I'll show you a slide that really highlights this. So this is a $95 million deficit on the upcoming budget. Like I said before, this is something Hastings, unlike the other schools, minus Kearney and Grand Island, really rely on. So I said that is vital. So I want to definitely try and always do our best to insulate ourselves from either the state uncertainties or the federal uncertainties. Next up, Governor Pillen did go on record saying he wants to decrease the budget by 10% or $500 million. So as you can see here, the big concern I think we have is being in the state aid business. that chunk of the pie, obviously 10% of that's going to affect our budget. So like I said, that's a concern we have. So that's a big thing there to consider, especially as a Hastings board. So going back here, so this is the income tax cuts. I'm not sure if everyone's aware of this. So each year it rackets down. So you can see in 2024, it went down to 5.84, 2025, 5.2, and then obviously 4.55 and 3.99. So that is your corporate income tax rate. The other component there is your income or personal income tax. Same thing there, it's ratcheting down. This has been the #1 driver of why we have a budget shortfall. Yes, it's more money in our pockets, which is a good thing in my opinion, but there are also going to be repercussions when it comes to schools like us that are dependent on the state aid. As you can see here, individual income tax, when they cut that, obviously that is a huge amount. 45% is going to rack it down each year. So that's a total revenue, roughly $6.5 billion. That's what the revenue that comes in each year. That continue to rack it down. The other number there is corporate income tax. So it's, I'd say roughly 55%. So it's like if I lost my job, I'm probably not going to go out to Las Vegas on a vacation with my family or go, et cetera, et cetera. That's a concern the schools see, especially being in that state aid business, and we get a huge amount of funds. This number is going to continually drop and drop. Where that's money going to come from, that's the unknown. Next up, just a rough draft of our revenue sources. As you can see, we're an outlier here, probably one of the biggest outliers in the state. State aid roughly makes up 37% of our budget. You can see property taxes roughly around that 32 to 35%. So like I said, with that loss of funding that's possibly coming down the pipe due to the corporate income tax and also the income tax cuts, that's very concerning on what the uncertainty is going to be. We always want to insulate ourselves from possible issues in the future. We already know these are racking down, and you talk to anybody that's coming down the line. I've got a great rapport with Senator Brandt out west, Senator 32. He's a conservative farmer. He did put a bill trying to stop this because he sees it coming. He sees the trains going to fall off the tracks. This is what he told me face to face. We need to stop this. Unfortunately, there was not the votes, so it's going to continue to rack it down. His idea was to slow the income tax cuts just so we don't bleed ourselves to death. Up next, there's also federal funding uncertainties. Like I said, there's always uncertainties when it comes to federal funds. The big one here is the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. Was recently passed and enacted in Congress and extended the tax cuts, the 2017 tax cuts. With that being said, Nebraska recently did an analysis of that. Of that, $217 million of tax revenue over the biennium, so you're talking 2 years, 26 and 27, you're going to see that drop. So like I said, I think the board's trying to be fiscally responsible, and how can we insulate ourselves from the unknown, not only from the federal level, but the state level. In addition, especially to work in healthcare, I know this was a big concern in hospitals across not only Hastings, and not in Kearney, but actually rural hospitals. Like I said, there's going to be issues with Medicaid and funding along those lines. We do use Medicaid funding for some of our special needs kids that have really unique needs to themselves. And like I said, that will be lost in funding. The other one would be the SNAP, or if you're on food assistance, that will be shifted as well to the state, just like Medicaid. I don't think anybody can tell you what the real repercussion is going to be. There's a huge bill. I know they're diving into it. But the Nebraska Governor Pillen's office did say for sure we're going to be losing $217 million. I think that's why he wants to cut the state budgets. He knows, hey, with the income tax coming, you understand we're going to be short money. We're going to have to make up with the federal level is no longer covering. Like I said, Medicaid is totally not out there yet what the funding's going to be, but at least gives you an idea of what we face. So over time, like I said, I think the board's been fiscally responsible when it comes to just the levy. If you just look at the last, say, 2022 to 23, levy is $1.32, dropped to $2.12, and then $1.16. We would propose keeping the same. The main driver, like I said before, right, wrong, or indifferent, the common necessity of having heating and AC in our schools. I don't know, a school across Nebraska does not have heating or AC along those lines. That's how you said it's going to take our portion of our cut as needs to be done. 85% of schools' budgets in personnel. We're all fighting for the same resources. The resources are limited. I don't care if you work in the hospital or work in a factory. We're all fighting for the same resources. We want to do our best to compensate our staff the best we can. You gotta understand, a larger district like Hastings, roughly the 16th, 17th largest district in Nebraska, we have unique needs, smaller districts do not. Unfortunately, some of our sports staff have some tough kiddos they gotta work with. It's not uncommon that a teacher will get bit, a sports staff will get hit. Like you said, when we're doing our best to compensate as best I can, it's just a tough working environment. It gets tougher and tougher each year, and I don't think anybody has a magic solution to how to stop that. With that being said, I'm gonna hand it back over to Craig. I appreciate you all coming out. As I reiterated before, if you have more questions, please feel free to stop in my office. I'll be there all day on Thursday and Friday. You can call anytime. This is something I'm very passionate about, is the budget, making sure the right information's out there, not the wrong information. But I can dive in any other items there. Last thing I need to note, like I said, our operating budget is down, but we did have to raise, obviously, our tax request to help cover when it came to that HVAC issue we're having. The other issue we're having here, we've got our northwest wing, it isn't working in that area. That's something too we're gonna need to address in the next year. Like I said before, nothing's getting cheaper, and that's gonna be, like I said, an additional cost we're gonna have to address. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Craig, and I appreciate your time and coming out.
It's now time for public input. We're going to ask that you try to keep your comments to about 3 minutes. That's generally what hearings allow. We're not going to try to hold fast to that necessarily, but we hope to get as many voices in the room as we can in a timely fashion. As Dr. Krasowski indicated, he'll try to answer a few questions, but questions that require more depth and just more time. Go in and see him, or contact him by email, or contact him by telephone. I didn't necessarily catch his email, but his number is 402-461-7500. You can reach him by that method. So the first speaker, Dan Schwarzkopf. Will you please come forward? While Dan's coming forward, I'm going to indicate that Dan's address is 1409 North Turner. He is a resident of the Hastings Public Schools area, and he's representing himself. I'm doing that rather than asking you to do that to help you out.
Thanks.
Thank you, Craig, and thank you for the school administration being here. I just have one general question. You've done a great job pointing out where revenue loss is going to be coming from. And we all know that we're faced with increased expenses in our lives and our businesses. Do you know what percentage of the Hastings Public School budget is used for employee health insurance?
Test. I do not off the top of my head. I do have a spreadsheet actually sitting on my desktop, and I could get that to you at a later time.
Okay. I'd be glad to stop and see you on it. Your predecessor and I used to have some conversations about that, and so I'd be interested in visiting with you about that a little further.
Yeah. Sorry I don't have that information.
That's okay.
Two months on the job, sorry.
I understand. No problem. Thank you for your response.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Kelly Sheets is our next speaker. Kelly lives at 1331 Sheraton Drive. He's a resident of HPS, and he's representing himself.
Thank you, Craig, and nice meeting you, Chris. I know it's probably been a tough 2 months you've been here. The only questions I guess I have is on this HVAC system, do you know how many units they were short or how many they're going to have to replace coming up?
Do you remember off the top of your head with the HVAC? So you're talking about Alcott, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, just that one. Is there other schools they didn't get replaced at that time?
So the biggest one, talking to Matt, our head of maintenance, half the building's been done, but on the east side, that's not been done. So a portion's been done, the other portion's not been done. Typically, I think what they like to do is not to do all the roofs at one time, then 20 years later, you got to do them all. So typically try and stage. Unfortunately, I think due to the remodel, a lot of dust got in there. Some of the systems, Samsung, were not the best, so we didn't get a life out of them along those lines. But the high school would be another one, and with that being 20 years, I believe Craig was a middle school completed in 2009. It'll be 20 years there, so that'd be the next project kind of come down the road. The board's been good saying, hey, we need a rotation in place to try and get ahead of these issues. And that's one of the goals, actually, my new evaluation system. So hopefully we don't have to go out to the public when these issues happen.
Sure. And there's probably no way to do a sinking fund, and probably not enough funds to do that with those.
Yeah, no.
Okay. And then the only other question I have is, obviously we know the state aid's gonna go down. I mean, nothing looks good. Is there anywhere we're making any cuts or saving any money that, maybe the public can know? Because I was kind of skip to my next one, because I only got a couple seconds. Because we got our last pink card in 2022, and I've got the mill levies for basically 10 of our competitors here, and I'll show you. And in 2022, our mill levy was obviously the highest between Kearney, Grand Island, Aurora, York, Lexington, Columbus, Norfolk, Fremont, Beatrice, and North Platte. In 2022, the mill levies all went down, but we're still the highest. And I go over all mill levies, sorry, I don't just use the public schools.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the two things I got is, where are we making some cuts? And is it gonna be every 2 or 3 years we gotta get a pink card? Because I know everybody gets in a hustle and they're all mad. Not a lot of people here at the last meeting. There's probably twice as many, 3 times as many people.
Yeah, no, we do have some positions that have not been filled, just can't find quality applicants. I think the board's always looking for ways to tighten our belts. As I alluded to before, I just think the unique needs of our kids are getting tougher and tougher. In terms of mill levy, 14 cents of our levy is a bond that the voters approved. So hopefully you could take that 14 cents off and it'd be $1.02. That's a big, like I said, driver with that bond the voters approved, which like I said, we do have beautiful buildings. I think a good asset to our community as well.
Good.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Our next speaker is Robert Lemke. Robert lives at 1016 North Hewitt. He is a resident of the Hastings Public Schools, and he is here to represent himself.
Well, I'm just kind of a little bit unknown right now. I don't understand levies. I'll be honest, I have no idea what a levy is. But all I look at is the output expense. That's all I look at. The questions I have is, you talked about the HVAC. Is there going to be more putting in on other schools than just
They're all in, so it's just replacing them. Alcott's that first phase. Next phase, like you said, we're going to talk about the high school, the northwest corner over here, and then, like I said, get on that 20-year lifespan. We're aware that, hey, the middle school is going to be the next big project. Ideally, what I like to do is do it like a 3-phase or a 2-phase. So you do it in pieces just in case, then we get back to 20 years and the next person sitting in my chair won't have to do it all at once and kind of get a big tax increase to cover all that.
So there's going to be more digging up holes outside? If I understand, they did that for underground HVAC. Is that what you're talking about?
They did geothermal before I came, and I believe that was part of the ESSER stimulus funds. They're used to cover that. So that was the federal funds they used as a portion of that.
So, okay, so it isn't all on the taxes to pay for it. It's federal. Some of it's federal.
So they use a portion during the COVID era. There's ESSER 1, 2, and 3. We got stimulus funds, and Hastings used a portion of that to cover some of the HVAC items here. Some systems are different. So for example, at Alcott, there's rooftop units or condensing units that sit up top, and then they just circulate throughout. So it just all depends on what system's in place. I believe there's no geothermal at any other buildings besides the high school, but I could be wrong.
Okay. The question I only got so much time.
Yep.
So, is this going to be paid for? Not like some of the other government buildings that are built up or torn down that it's not paid for.
Yeah, that would be, like I said, why this tax freeze is happening, why you received the pink postcard. It's all related, so we have the funds to cover the HVAC system. We don't have a strong number on it, but I imagine overall we'll be able to cover it with this tax increase.
Okay, all right. When I got my tax statement,
Yeah,
can I say that?
yeah.
Okay. They had to come out, I had to bring up, because my basement did a Titanic, it sunk, busted in two. And I had snakes coming in, because it had a good gap. I had thrashers come out.
You can finish real fast. Go ahead and finish real fast.
Okay, I had thrasher come out, and they did a study, and I had a sinkhole. I had a sinkhole underneath the basement. They had to fill it up so I could push it back up. And so it's not a solid, it's a slow down revenue. I said, well, where did this sinkhole come from? Well, we're on a cesspool. So I wonder if a long time ago I was guaranteed I shouldn't have no problem. I said, I don't want to hear that person anymore.
Sorry to hear about that.
Yeah, but it decreased the valuation, at least. And so
That'd be the assessor's office. They set your valuation,
Yeah.
so I check with them.
yeah. So on the increase, as far as we need things for the schools. If we don't have the revenue, you're going to put everything on a credit card?
No, like I said, we'll have it. I think you hit the nail on the head. This is a need, the districts need AC and heat for our kiddos.
Okay.
They'll appreciate it, and like I said, they'll be paid for.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's all.
Our next speaker is Charles Holmberg. Mr. Holmberg lives at 717 North Cedar. He resides in HPS and he represents himself.
I'll pass on my time, thank you.
Thanks, Sean.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Edward Krantz. Mr. Krantz lives at 1203 East 9th. He's in the Hastings Public School District and he is representing himself.
Thank you for listening to me, and I appreciate you answering questions, which is due to me for these kind of meetings. My biggest question is, how is this going to affect our kids? How is anything you guys are getting now going to affect our kids? Right now, we're 99 out of 149. That's our ranking of 149 high schools in the state. That's pretty bad. So the end is going to help us get that ranking up to the top third instead of hanging around the bottom third.
Well, I think you bring up a great point. If you look at who's the top, you're probably going to talk about Elkhorn. That probably next to maybe 1 to 2% poverty. We're going next to 70%. We have a lot more challenges than Elkhorn or Gretna does have. And I think just walking through our school system, seeing the shoes on our kids, the languages they speak, they don't have those challenges in other more affluent districts. And like I said, not using that as deficit thinking, that's one of the challenges we face. Like I said, I worked in a lower poverty district. We had a lot less issues. And like I said, a lot of that's just poor home life, stuff like that. We try our best to what's best for kids.
So you can't do anything about it because I actually got 2 kids and a daughter-in-law, and got 2 kids and a daughter-in-law that teaches at different public schools. Different than Hastings, but they seem to have the same problems, but yet they're not down to the bottom third of the school districts.
And I'd just like to see where that data comes from. I'm not sure if I've seen that before.
Pardon?
Where do those rankings come from? Do you have the source of that by chance?
Not sure. I did. My wife looked them up on the way here.
Okay.
Latest numbers. So, all right.
Yep, we can always get better. I agree.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you.
I want to thank everyone for taking the time to attend this public hearing. As I stated earlier, the ultimate transparency, the ultimate knowledge, the ability to get greater details are provided at the budget hearings of the entity, in this case the Hastings Public Schools, pursuant to the provisions of the Nebraska Budget Act, which has been in place for decades. Also, as the superintendent reminded you, his door is open to listen to you and to talk about specific matters that might be on your mind as it relates to taxation or other issues. Local, elected, and appointed officials do fully consider your input and ideas. Thank you. This concludes this hearing, and I'm bringing it now to a close. Thank you all.
Thanks again for coming out. Appreciate it.